storylines will be changed due to unforeseen circumstances. Yeah, sorry if you sorry guys if you heard Jew, I say Jew because I'm Irish. But anyways.
Yeah, it's the accent's fine.
Yeah, it's the accent. Don't think I'm just randomly calling out a community. So this is, I'll obviously read out what this headline states. The one I remember most is the original. I guess I can just switch to number 4 so you can all see this. The one I remember the most is the original outline for the Freya family.
Ferraria.
The Ferreira family. Their kids killing their dad and burying him in the backyard to cover up the crime. Same burial we've seen with Den, and Keanu. If I recall correctly, the actor who played had some trouble with whenever I hear that story I giggle. So, like,
buckles me for sure.
Because like obviously they didn't like fucking handcuff him and bring on the set.
No, it's genuinely suggested that they came onto set and went, "You're coming with us, Mr. whoever the fuck the guy was."
Like, because
obviously it's made a bit sexier because, you know. But like, as far as the story goes, the dad was genuinely like, "Yeah, your visa doesn't really add up, mate. You're getting deported." It's like, yeah, what? Yeah, you're getting deported right now, out the country. Like fucking.
Because again, like how I like to imagine is like he was like let's just say he's in the middle of a scene with his daughter on the show, and then they just like they I like to imagine the coppers were playing along with the scene, knocking on the door like he would like to speak with this father of the show, and just grabbed him, dragged him on the street, and he started kicking and screaming like, "Don't, please, no, I didn't illegally use my visa, please."
But yeah, there are some like I guess change due to unseen circumstances. It doesn't really end up being abandoned, which we have done a video on before. But there are some that are similar to this, where it's like, this just happened. No, it didn't. Like Kat's son and Alfie's brain tumor in 2015, he had a brain tumor. But obviously he left the square in 2016 to do Redwater, and then Redwater bombed. So they went, didn't happen. Didn't happen. There's a lot of good stuff though.
The dad had some permit with his work permit, so it had to be written up before a storyline could even take place. Instead, we got the organ donor story between Tariq.
Yeah, Tariq and Ronnie.
Which led to the family discovering Tariq is really their half brother. Tariq has been dating his half sister in secret. Wait, when was this? Never mind. I
think it's like 0203-ish, kind of.
Yeah, but Ronnie wasn't in 0203.
The Ferraria family. It was that sort of time period. In 01, you brought in. I'm pretty sure in 01 you brought in the DeMarcos, who were the family. They had Beppe and others. I don't remember. Yeah, they were brought in 2003, and they left by 2005.
Oh, so when was Ronnie into you?
I don't fucking know, mate.
Fair enough. All the storylines that were given were a mess. And they didn't stick around for long. Which storylines do you remember being rewritten? Do you have any?
I've just pulled it up. Bollywood. Yeah, this fucking thing is obviously the dad was supposed to be played by Dalip Tahil, who seemed like he did a decent chunk of TV. Apparently, he was a Bollywood star. Or at least how this is phrased. So yeah, he was cast, and yeah, he was supposed to be the patriarch of this family, and it was Ronnie, it was Ash, it was Addy, it was Karina, and it was Ronnie's friend Tariq. And they all joined, and it was going to be like the Six type of deal. It was all the family. And they were going to turn the dad, because the dad was supposed to be very controlling and very manipulative and just really kind of I don't know. I kind of see the way of like if we had like Nish and like all the family banded together and went, we need to end Nish because he will ruin us all. Like imagine if they all like reformed and kind of went, all right, we have to end you, otherwise you're just going to keep manipulating everyone. And it says that, yeah, he was going to be murdered by his children and buried in a shallow grave. So kind of similar to Den and similar to the Six in this way. But yeah, he got fucking... He was forced to leave over the Dalip Tawhil was forced to leave over his work permit, and it was replaced with a kidney transplant storyline. Which... I can't, it's probably the funniest, change to a storyline. In my opinion.
So did he get to finish his scenes, or did they just have to quickly write them
out? From what I can tell, they had to very quickly just write them out, and they had to do a kidney transplant story instead.
Yeah, he wasn't involved with the kidney transplant, I'd assume.
I don't know enough.
Yeah, fair enough.
But it's a very good one. The one thing that always intrigues me is when they initially brought Alfie onto the show, it was told that Alfie and Peggy were supposed to get together and be an item. Which is bizarre as fuck to me. But obviously they wanted to do the fucking... What's the movie called? It's the... That's not what I'm fucking talking about. It was supposed to be the movie where it's like, oh, Mrs. Robinson, are you trying to seduce me? Because it's like a younger man being seduced by an older woman. The fuck was it? What's that? What is Miss Robinson? I don't remember. Whatever someone will know the film. But it's a classic. So yeah, it was going to be this Alfie gets seduced by an older woman, they become an item. But obviously, well, because fucking Kat and Alfie and the actors had such a good dynamic and such a good rapport and back and forth, they went, this is dynamite, this. This is just really good, isn't it? So they just made them an item instead. Which does kind of remind us that just having good chemistry doesn't necessarily mean that the relationship's going to be good. Because Alfie and Kat's relationship since 05 has been fucking shit. So, yeah. Any else? Rewritten. I don't know. Yeah, scroll down, I guess. So it's time to read what other people think.
The baby swap storyline that ended because of unexpected public outcry about it.
Yeah, the baby swap was a very questionable one. And now let me just explain it in case people aren't aware what it was. The baby swap storyline was a storyline around 2010 where both Ronnie and Kat were pregnant at the same time, and they gave birth at a very similar time. But because Ronnie had the tragedy stick, just fucking was getting smacked with it every single time she entered the fucking studio. It's like, okay, Ronnie, who has really struggled, her first daughter died in front of her, and traumatic as fuck. And she'd never really been able, she never really felt too comfortable having kids. So she finally has a kid. She has a kid with Jack. Called I don't remember the name, but she finally has this kid, but the baby dies of sudden hot death, I think. So in this fit of grief and just absolute tragedy, she goes and takes Tommy from Kat. She goes and sneaks in, steals the baby. So then Kat has to find Tommy dead. I think he was called James. Sees Tommy dead and then obviously goes through all the grief. But because it's such a fucked up storyline, it was very quickly shelved because the amount of backlash. And obviously, because it's something so Chicken so kind of led to this big media outrage. especially because this is EastEnders going from 2008, which I'd argue is a very big period for the show, and then gradually through time it kind of started to degrade in a bit of quality, and then like, because tabloids are like, oh bloody EastEnders, that's fucking great shit. All the actors you got famously fucking wrecked by the media. So yeah, it was very quickly axed. I will say I'm a bit of a defender about this storyline because as fucked up as it is, I don't mind the storyline so much. Not that I've rewatched it because I haven't. Like I remember it at the time. I didn't really understand what was going on because I was like 10. But I do think it would have been an interesting one to explore because it shows just how far someone can like go when grieving. Like, grief fucks people up to no end. Most people generally argue you're not really the same person after grief. You generally just have to move on and fucking get through it. So yeah, that is the baby swap storyline. Obviously, you can understand why you got axed because it's pretty outrageous. But I'm probably one of the few people who would have been pretty interested to see how it would have been done.
Yeah, sorry, I was just sat here like, I don't know,
having a sleep.
Just like that, sat in the chair like I've eaten a Christmas Day dinner, just like, yeah, want to watch the EastEnders, love? Yeah, I honestly didn't know how they anticipated that. Yes, agree with that. On a similar natal note, so was Dawn May robbed during the time?
Yeah, that was the thing. Mad May was going to kidnap Dawn's daughter, Summer. But yeah, obviously the Madeleine McCann stuff came out at the time, and well, if they're aiming to avoid some media outrage, you don't really want to have a young girl get kidnapped at the time that the Madeleine McCann case was going on.
I didn't mean to laugh there, but I was just laughing at the fact like where I just started reading
it's just timing, isn't it?
I just started reading this, and then I just look over and I'm like, oh, Madeleine McCann's been mentioned. I'm sorry, lads. She's not a horrible person. She's dead. What's she gonna do?
I suppose also there is the fucking. I forgot about that. Fucking. There was a time that Keanu was a male escort, which I don't like. He was going to become a male escort, and he just never happened. Yeah, obviously the thing we talked about was the Wayland or James Wilmot Brown thing, where he was going to buy up the square and they were gonna take over, and but ultimately it was because Max became friends with his son Luke, and then they did the scheme that they were going to buy up the square and buy up a lot of the square so they could essentially just throw everyone out. Because obviously this is after the Who Killed Lucy stuff, where, Max spends a year in prison because he's wrongfully accused. So it's time to make everybody pay, and he has a fucking vendetta. And then when Lauren and fucking Abby dies, he's also just fully, fuck this, I fuck my life. This is all shit. Abby dies, not Lauren. So they were going to buy up the square and basically betray everyone who hurt them in the past. But, yeah, they kind of gradually went, this storyline's just a bit shit. This storyline's not it. And you had Jake Wood talking on a talk show where it's like, yeah, this was supposed to go on for 3 years. And then Wilmot Brown dies. And they went, yeah, let's just leave this in the past.
I didn't realise in the show.
In the show, he got killed off on the show, and they went, yeah, this was supposed to be, I think it's 3 years. I could be fucking making up the number, but I'm pretty sure he said this was going to be a very long running storyline. So yeah, there we are. That's the one with Brown stuff.
Dawn Swan's daughter, Summer, was going to be kidnapped by Mad May. They dropped it when which seems a bit daft in retrospective, but there was a media hysteria about it back then. A bit daft? A fucking child was kidnapped. How could it be a bit daft, love? You know, I understand.
Oh, it's more so. Well, it just shows do this shit all the time, and it doesn't really.
Yeah, but I mean, like if a bombing happened in England and then they do a bombing in England in a show, like you're expecting outrage. Like, you know what I mean? There's a time and place.
Yeah.
Like if you're doing a kidnap storyline, maybe wait about 5-10 years till the fucking.
Yeah, it's a read the fucking room, guys.
Like I understand you're an EastEnders fan, but again, the only way I can describe it is like if a bomb goes off in the UK and then the writer goes, you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna do a bomb in the RG barges, and then they blow up the RG barges. Why are people complaining? Because a bomb just happened in England, you fuckers. You ignorant. Like, you know what I mean? Sorry for my little rant, but that's what I'm trying to get across. Like, it's not a little oopsie. She fucking fell into a cave and was eaten by a bear. She fucking died. Allegedly died. She could still be alive, but from what I know, she's dead.
From what you know, what are you, a fucking detective? What are you fucking going on about?
Yeah, I spoke to the family, you know me. On a totally different note, just going.
Yeah, this is just some stories of Matt. Keep going.
Dan Watts, the actor who came back on the show, but then gave trashed. Yeah, I remember this. He went on the fucking talk show and then fucking went. Is it Jesse Wallace? Jesse Wallace is a bitch. Shane Ritchie is a wanker. Fuck them.
Yeah, Sam Mitchell is an absolute fucking airhead. Like, dumb as a board or whatever the fuck. Like, just. Yeah, essentially, he got catfished by a reporter who. He got catfished by a reporter, which was it was an obvious, like, honey trap. It was like, oh, hello, attractive reporter who is like a third of my age is suddenly asking all these intimate questions about the show and what you think about it. And yeah, he then made those statements whilst like fucking basically like performing sex acts on himself in a fucking like he did it in his trailer, and the one time he did it whilst he was dressed as Captain Hook.
Like, it's obviously fucked up, but it lives on in infamous for me on the Watching Walford.
It's hilarious, but it's not, because that was kind of like that was just the shit that came to the surface for Leslie Grantham, because you know later on, basically all you need to know is Soap Study did a really good episode on Dirty Den's return in 2003, 2004. And then he obviously goes into that aftermath of like what Leslie Grantham did after. He took some quotes from his book. Like, that, basically, anytime we mention this, we're pretty much referencing that video that Soap Study did. And it would be doing a disservice to not suggest that you go and find it. It's really fucking good.
Like, obviously, I love Dirty Den, but I know it's not funny being catfished or anything. But it's just the fact that, like, can you stick a finger in your mouth? And he's like, okay, track the fucking...
The one thing that buckles me the most about that comment, though, it wasn't in for Leslie Grantham made those statements whilst committing a grossly lewd online sexual performance for an undercover newspaper hack whilst dressed as a pirate. He was also later accused of being a nonce. Like, you made the effort to sound really like professional, like, I can't talk about the details. Nonce, like, for fuck's sake.
I love this, but they're all shitting on him. He's also a murderer, but people seem to forget that.
He is a murderer, obviously.
Yeah.
It was in, because I'm pretty sure he was serving in the army. Mm-hmm. He was in Germany, and he needed the money, so he like made this plan of how he was going to hold someone up, but it ended up being a taxi driver. But obviously, the taxi driver ended up dead, and he left him in a canal. But the story leading into it is when he joined EastEnders, they both like Julia Smith, Julia Holland, Julia Smith, Tony Holland. The names are there. Just put the right ones in the right fucking box. They both went, yeah, it feels like there's some real like darkness hiding behind those eyes. And then obviously the tabloids got hold of it and went, he's a murderer. He murdered a man. And he basically he left a post-it note essentially saying, look, to any of you, I've got a past. If any of you have a problem with it, just leave a mark here, and if there's enough, I'll leave. But they all went, it's served your time. But obviously the finger in the mouth and the wanking on webcam, that's too far. Because he was insulting the BBC and the actors.
Yeah, I understand we're in 20 minutes into this video, but I don't care. I'm just going to switch to number 3. I love the fact, right, that he murdered a man. But yeah, he can stay on the show. Oh yeah, Sam Mitchell is a bitch. She's a slut. And then he's like, and also, oh, you want me to stick my finger in the mouth and flank off as Captain Hook? Well, you got me. Okay, you're fired.
But like the way he talks about it, he described it as, obviously, I mean, Soap Studies reading was he was a guy who never really felt like he needed fame. Like he didn't really seem to take much from it. And so by the time he returned, he was like a big crossover star, right? He was a big fucking name. But he's also coming into a significantly different EastEnders show than it was when he was on it. You now have these like big names who were carrying the show. Like, and obviously you take the Sam Mitchells, you take the fucking Cat and Alfie who he was shitting on. Well, maybe they've got a bit more sway now, Maybe they have a bit more fucking, yeah, I really don't like what he fucking said about me. And then the BBC go, oh, bloody hell, alright, you're done. And I mean, even in the end, the Dem Watts character, in like the last couple months, because his return was really good stuff. Like, it was a genuinely very good return. But by the end, he'd obviously outstayed his fucking welcome, and they went, yeah, he's actually the worst fucking person ever, and is terrible, and we all hate him, and spit on his grave. Get a little hot toot on that thing, you know what I'm saying? There we are, reference game on point. But yeah, that's, but yeah, it's a absolutely mental fucking... It's a mental fucking story. But as I said before, watch the soap study video on it. With all that said, I think we can leave it here, and if there's any more that crop up, I'm sure we can do another video discussing all of these stories. But yes, that is all from us, our Watching Walford. Tell us, what storylines that changed due to unforeseen circumstances in the comment section, and whilst you're there, make sure to leave a little like and a subscribe. But yeah, there we are. Thank you for watching the video. Join us in the next one. See you then. Bye bye.